Tuesday afternoon, 2 to 4 o'clock, time for Sports 4CLE. A little later in the show, we'll talk about the hottest team in the NBA, the Cleveland Cavaliers. Amico from hoopswire.com will join us. We begin by talking about the Browns. So Ken Dorsey introduced to the media the new offensive coordinator on Kevin Stefanski's staff. And Dorsey does have a history of being pretty good with mobile quarterbacks. Cam Newton won the MVP. Josh Allen finished second and third in the MVP voting. All right, that kind of speaks for itself. Unlike Allen, though, Watson's never been a turnover or mistake-prone quarterback. Watson has only had one season over 9 interceptions. Josh Allen has had only one season under 10 interceptions. Cam Newton under 10, never. So Watson's interceptions by season 8, 9, 12, 7, 5, and 4. The 5 and 4 less games. Allen's by interceptions by season 12, 9, 10, 15, 14, and 18. Newton interceptions by season 17, 12, 13, 12, 10. 14, 16, and 13. Let's welcome in Casey Kinnamon, Dog Pound Daily Network 216. So, Casey, again, my question isn't, is Ken Dorsey a good offensive coordinator? I believe he is. I'm just curious, is this offense going to evolve enough to take advantage of Deshaun Watson's skill set? I think more than anything, they didn't do that last year. The Ravens game was fine, the Titans game, but it needs to be a little bit more. You need a little bit more.
That has to be priorities 1 through 3 right there. That's what this whole next season is about. And you see some common threads with those quarterbacks. They're all mobile. They're all guys who can create after the play's over and kind of keep things alive. And the other two, like what we've looked at, like they're more chaotic. You look at Josh Allen and Cam Newton, they're a little more chaotic, but they're explosive. They have explosive plays. And we've seen that in Deshaun Watson's past, but that was the element that was missing. So you bring a guy like Dorsey in who has experience with that. And whether or not Dorsey, you view him as a top-tier offensive coordinator or not, I can say he is a top-tier quarterback coach. And that's what his track record would show you. And I think that's just what he's brought in to do is get this thing on the rails and get the most out of Deshaun Watson. Now, it does help that Watson is more risk-adverse than those other two quarterbacks, but you might have to introduce an element of risk in order to get those explosive plays out of him. And only time will tell.
Yeah, in talking to folks from Buffalo, we heard a little bit of it. Be smart, not conservative. That is kind of his mantra, however you want to, but that's the approach he wants. Yeah,
and it's a fine line, isn't it? Especially the way these defensive scheme you up, taking what's there, but knowing when it's time to risk it, when it's time to take a deep shot. And especially on those plays that, they're secondary plays that are after your normal schedule, everything goes off schedule. What can you make happen with your legs, keep it alive? Can you and your receivers get on the same page, and can you take advantage of these explosives? And you've seen that happen in Buffalo with consistency under Dorsey. That's one thing they have to get down in Cleveland.
So Ken Dorsey talked about maximizing the talents of Deshaun Watson in this offense. He talked about this yesterday.
It's working together hand in hand, and it's, I think the first thing is obviously, we go through and we evaluate the season and we have honest conversations and, hey, we look at tape and we watch what we did on the field and say, hey, this is our standard and this was good enough and this maybe didn't live up to our standard. And I think that's the exciting thing about Deshaun is like, from everything I've been told from, Kevin and the guys here, this guy, he wants to be coached. He wants to be, pushed and driven. And, I think I'll be able to pick up, where the staff has left off on that. Let's build a great base of fundamentals that we can depend on throughout the year and make sure we're doing those things that, come the fourth quarter of games, like we've still got a great base that'll help us be accurate. And, when things get a little messy, we could still rely on those things and deliver accurate throws and make great decisions. So that's half the battle. Our job in the quarterback room is to go out, score points, and help us win football games, whether it's 1 point or 20 points or whatever.
And Casey, the back half of that, the fundamentals, those are some of the things that, the limited number of snaps that we've seen, those are some of the things that Deshaun needs to clean up a little bit.
Yeah, and that's where, wanting to be coached up comes into play, and those honest conversations he's talking about, those are tough to have. And for a quarterback of Deshaun's stature, you're going to have to leave your ego at the door, and you're going to have to dissect and break down what you did right and what you need to improve on. And there are several things we could point to that need to be improved upon, but it's up to him to be receptive to those ideas. And if this is going to work, him and Dorsey have to have that kind of rapport, that back and forth, where they can be honest with each other about what's working, what's not working, how you can fix something. And if something just needs to be thrown out, you need to do that, And that only happens when you have a offensive coordinator / quarterbacks coach and a quarterback that are on the same page and are working towards the same goal and like leave their egos at the door.
So Deshaun Watson talked about his approach to playing in games where there's an elite quarterback on the other side. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. This from QB Unplugged.
For me, I got to be aware of what Pat, Lamar, Joe is doing on the other side, but I got to be locked in on my task at hand. I can't try to match them, because they're going to make hell of a plays. Like you said, like Lamar tipping the ball, catching it, running it for 13 yards for a first down, like shit like that's going to happen. But you can't go out there the next drive and be like, I got to do that right now, because that's where you kind of fall back in that low, in that trap. You can't get caught up in the hype. It is what it is. Like, man, Pat was the same class, but at the same time, like, you got to give credit where his credit's due. He's been fucking great. You know what I'm saying? But I can't get caught. You know what I'm saying? But I can't get caught up in that, because going through the week, the question's going to be, how you feel about Pat? Y'all came out the same draft class, this, that, the third, Super Bowls. But I got to lock in on my task. So I think throughout the game, if you can stay locked in on who you're going against, that defense, but be aware, okay, we might need to go for it on 4th and 1. Sometimes we might need to kick it right here just to get points so the defense can see. Because you know how it is. If you go out there, you miss the 4th down, the aggro out the whole team.
In case it's an interesting perspective, and it's what you would hope to hear.
Yeah, he's saying all the right things, and there's a lot to it. You can't battle that specific quarterback. You have to stay playing. You got to play against the defense, and you need to stay locked in, as he says. But it does change the way you go about your business, because you might have to go for more on 4th downs when you're facing a Patrick Mahomes and you're facing a Joe Burrow. And unfortunately for the Browns and Deshaun Watson, there's a ton of elite quarterbacks in your conference. So to get where you want to go, you have to go through these elite quarterbacks. So you have to have that mindset. It's you versus the defense. It's not you versus the quarterback. But, this is a results-driven business, and the team with the most points wins. So you have to match, and that's what it comes down to. And us as analysts or fans, we view it like that, this quarterback versus that quarterback. But the quarterbacks themselves have to have a completely different mindset to be successful.
Yeah, they just have to realize that this quarterback may put up a lot of points. That's all. That's the only thing you got to realize. This is kind of interesting as well. This is from ESPN.com. Redrafting the first 2 rounds of the 2023 NFL Draft. So in round 1 with pick 28, the Bengals. They picked Miles Murphy, defensive end Clemson. In the redraft, they would take DeJuan Jones, offensive tackle from Ohio State. Jones finished second among all rookies in pass blocking win rate, almost 87% successful. So Jones was that good, and the good news is he can be a Brown for a while.
Yeah, and with the Senior Bowl just in our rear view, we were actually talking about this, me and Jacob Roach, and day 1 of the Senior Bowl for DeJuan Jones, he absolutely dominated. So much so that he pulled his oars out of the water and was like, okay, I've done enough. I don't need to compete the rest of this week. But because there were people that had concerns whether he loved football or not, the fact that he pulled himself out of that competition and chose not to compete was a huge red flag and pushed him down several rounds. And the Browns were the benefactors of that. But the reality of the situation is that's a first-round talent. Look at all the offensive tackles in the league. A lot of teams would switch who they have to take DeJuan Jones, a player that the Browns got in the 4th round, by taking a chance. So, yeah, if you're the Bengals, that's a miss. But the rest of the league missed. You're not alone. DeJuan Jones is he's the best canvas you could hope for if you're looking for a right tackle. Is that young man? And I'm thankful that he's wearing the brown and orange.
Well, yeah, the other thing is the Browns got it right. I mean, we often point out when they get it wrong. That's one where they got it right. They got it right big time. It's good to be right when it means you get first-round talent in the third, fourth round. All right, before we go to break, yesterday, Commissioner Roger Goodell at the Super Bowl announced that the Eagles will host the first NFL game in Brazil opening Friday, week 1. Opponent will be announced at a later date, but it will be one of these teams: Falcons, Panthers, Steelers, Browns, Packers, Jaguars, Cowboys, Giants, Commanders. Last 3 their conference or their division rivals. I guess it could be the Browns. I'm guessing Cowboys or Packers make probably a little bit more sense, but you never know.
I don't know if they'll pull a division game to go down there. You look, the Jaguars are probably playing a couple in England,
so
they're probably off.
Right.
So if I'm looking at it, it's Falcons, it's Packers, and Browns, being realistic. I think you're pulling from those teams, unless they surprise me and pull a division opponent. Because if they pull a division opponent, it's going to be Dallas.
Right. You're looking for marquee. First time you're ever playing in a country, you're looking marquee in that. For whatever reason, Cowboys have that. That worldwide pull without question. But it would be interesting. You know what? I'm not one that That's a lot of travel. There's no need to do no need to do that if you're planning to go play deep in the playoffs.
No, and I wonder if there is a contingency plan for, usually is there a built-in buy for those teams
right.
that are traveling down there, especially this first trip, because they don't know what kind of, the length of what that travel is going to mean to the player's health. So I do think it's interesting. It's interesting. I'm of all the locations they've went, that's going to be an interesting one, because I've watched quite a few soccer matches down that way, and those fans are rabid. So we'll see how they take to the NFL game.
Casey Kinnamon, Doug Pound Daily Network 216, and I can step aside, take a quick timeout. Other side of the break, we'll talk some Browns contracts that could very well be restructured. Sports for CLE. Be right back. Stay with us.
You might have expected all the games and all the excitement. And even though you couldn't see it right away, it's all right here. 5 games in one. $22 million in prizes between $25 and $500, and a shot at $1 million grand prize. Golden Casino. A night's worth of excitement for just $10.
We continue talking Browns with Casey Kinnamon from Dog Pound Daily Network 216. So 4 Browns most likely to have their contracts restructured. This from Dog Pound Daily. Number 4, they go Joel Bitonio. He's got a $12.1 million cap hit in 2024. Number 2, Amari Cooper. $20.38 million cap hit next season. Number 2, Denzel Ward, $23.5 million cap hit in 2024. And number 1, as it usually is, Deshaun Watson, $63.977 cap hit in 2024. Casey, when you look at it, they certainly will do one, maybe more. You could even probably throw Myles Garrett in there. You could restructure and extend Garrett. Same thing with Cooper. Who makes sense to you there?
Well, the one that jumps out is Amari Cooper. I'm looking to do a restructure extension.
Right.
I'm looking to extend him for another 2 seasons, lessen the cap hit for this year, throw the back end voids in, and that's the one that screams to me. But I think you can see 3 of those 4, and there's going to be additional. They're going to need to move some money, which the Browns are like. My days of doubting Andrew Berry's ability to juggle the cap and free up money, that's long gone. He's shown me year over year they're ahead of the game. They know who they're going to target. They know whose money they're going to push, and convert to signing bonuses and just free up that cap to give them the wiggle room that they need. But I think you look at Amari and obviously Deshaun.
Yeah, and the one thing is, it's fine until the cap. If something like the pandemic hits and the cap doesn't go up, what they project, that's the only way it comes into play. Here's another interesting one. Greg Newsome, 5th-year option. What do you think happens? That's a tough that's a tough call.
It is. It is. He's a quality corner. I just look at what you already have on the books in that corner room. You have Denzel. You don't have an out on that contract for a couple years, and you have Martin Emerson in the wings. For me, I'm going to try to trade Greg Newsome. I just look at, you could get some value for him. Now, you're not going to get a high pick. I know people need to lower their expectations. You're not getting what you got put into him. You're not getting a 1, you're not getting a 2. If you can get a 3rd or a 4th round, or maybe package him with the deal, I think you do that before you give him the 5th-year option. Because look what you have in Martin Emerson. Even if he doesn't even take another step, if he just plays the way he played last year, this next year, that's a CB1 right there. Like, that is, you need to save that money for him. I feel long term, I think that will be the plan, is you're going to ride Ward's contract out, and then you're going to shift all that money, and then Emerson's going to be your cornerback 1. That's just the way I see it playing out. And it's nothing against Greg Newsome. He's a fine player. I just think there's going to be more value in, getting Emerson Inc. long term.
The other thing is, keep in mind, Emerson, not a first-round pick, so you don't have the 5th-year option. He comes up a year sooner. The other thing is, Andrew Berry does player-for-player trades. That could be something. He might get you a decent wide receiver from a team that is a little more stacked at that position, shall we say, than the Browns.
Yeah, and that's why I say, you trade him, but you also look at a package. You look at a team like Philadelphia, who's in need of cornerbacks. They have a good working relationship, and they have a disgruntled receiver in Philadelphia that I don't think the Browns would mind acquiring. So you keep him for leverage and things like that. And you may even see an instance where they keep him to the cap, to the 5th-year option, even ink that and still look to move him.
Right. And again, it's not that he is not a really good corner. It's that the fit and the money allocation is kind of a problem. All right, Browns linebacker room, you've got Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. At some point, you extend him and you get his extension done. But other than that, room full of uncertainty. Sione Takitaki needs to be signed. This from Mac. We use his tweets quite a bit. Among NFL linebackers, 300 coverage snaps. 3rd in passer rating is Sione Takitaki, 5th yards after catch, 1st in percentage of targets caught. You know what, Casey, this is a guy that's just valuable. You can play him anywhere on that linebacker room. He's pretty good against the run, and he just seems to be getting better.
Yeah, I'm with my guy Mac. This to me, this is a no-brainer. You just look at that linebacker room. You have JOK under contract. He's going to be a guy you look to extend. Other than that, you got Tony Fields and Mahmoud Diabate. That's it. A lot of guys are free agents. Their contracts up. If I can bring any of those back, it's Sione Takitaki. Obviously, he's your Sam. He's your starting Sam. But he can also play Mike. You've seen it. And you've seen him get better year over year. This was a season where I wasn't even sure he was going to get on the field till November. Coming off the injury he came off of, nothing, hit the ground running. He showed he's completely healed from that. And he also gives you an attitude, an edge. He's that physical presence, in that linebacker room. So for me, that's a no-brainer. Sione Takitaki needs to be re-signed this offseason.
Casey Kinnamon from Dog Pound Daily Network 216 and I. Going to step aside, take a quick timeout, other side of the break, talk a little bit of NFL free agency. Sports for CLE. I'll be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns with Casey Kinnamon from Dog Pound Daily Network 216. Ken Dorsey, new offensive coordinator, talked about adding wrinkles to the Browns offense next year.
You watch this offense on film, and there's a lot of exciting things about it. not only from a player standpoint, but what we're doing in creativity and different ways to attack a defense standpoint. So I think there's a lot of exciting things that we've done, and then obviously every year, whether it's me coming in new this year, but every year you look to evolve and to evaluate and change. Hey, do we like this? No, take it out. Do we want to add this? Yeah, add it. You know what I mean? And there's always that evolution that you look to try to stay ahead of the curve. So that's going to happen. But I think that's the exciting part to come in now is to be a part of that and blend these kind of two different philosophies, and incorporate different things that maybe we did in Buffalo or Carolina or whatnot. And then obviously we've got some other coaches who are coming in who are going to be able to add their, from their experiences as well. And that's the exciting part.
Casey, when you look at it, Dorsey is, I guess it's somewhat similar to Kevin Stefanski. When you look at Buffalo and Carolina before that, what does he bring that maybe Kevin Stefanski's offense didn't have as much of?
I would say spreading out the field. If you watch those two teams in particular, especially Buffalo, these last couple of years, they really spread out the field. And they can even do it while running 22 personnel. By the way, they use their tight ends. So I think that's a difference. Obviously, a heavy dose of shotgun, which I think is very useful for the way Deshaun Watson plays his game, the way he sees the field, the way he's always operated. Since his first year in the league, he really hasn't been under center all that much. Getting him back and getting him comfortable is paramount. And I think that Dorsey has a better understanding of that than Kevin does. But yeah, those two elements right there are the biggest differences I see between what Dorsey's done in his past versus what the Browns have been doing. Yeah,
the other thing is that it seems Dorsey does a little bit more of the traditional RPO, where you kind of are reading it, and it's that really wasn't a whole lot of the Browns' offense with what we saw limited from Deshaun.
Yeah, and that's puzzling, right? I thought that was an element that would surely be introduced if you just look at his time in Houston. Very successful with those traditional RPOs and his ability to pull it and just be dangerous and keep defenses on their toes, keep linebackers, unable to take their eyes off of them, stuff like that. And we really didn't see that. Now, is that a personnel move, right? They don't think they have the running backs to execute that, or is it just a blocking philosophy that they don't want to go traditional with it? But I think there has to be an element of that with Deshaun Watson. I think that if you do that, you can keep defenses more honest. And I do look for them to, I don't know how much of a part it will play in the season, but I think that it will be a wrinkle that does get added.
This is also kind of interesting. So this from the Bleacher Report. Free agent players that could become superstars on their new teams, 2024. They mentioned T. Higgins, wide receiver, projected to earn star wideout money. SpotTrack estimates his next deal will ring up over $18 million a season. If he's not tagged, clearly he has the talent to make good on that type of payday. Elite ability to stretch the field and come up with contested catches. I think 18.6 is a little light for what the wide receiver market. I mean, if that's what it is, yeah, sign me up for 2.
Yeah. Unfortunately for us both, that is not going to be it. He's going to get paid in that 23 range more than likely. And I just look at what the Bengals are doing, their offensive identity. They're going to franchise tag him if they can't get a deal done. And if they think they can't get a deal done long term, it might be a tag and trade. And if that's the case, they're not going to trade him inside the division. I see the path to T. Higgins being full of obstacles. I think that either they tag him or he goes to the highest bidder, or a combination of the two of the tag and trade. And I just don't think the Browns would be in that catbird seat for any of that action.
Yeah, that's probably a fair assessment. If the Browns decide to take a swing at wide receiver in free agency, Gabe Davis might be a really good fit. Again, this from Mac. Yards per catch rankings the last few years. So in 2023, he was 6th, 16.6. 2022, second at 17.4, 2021, 9th, 15.7. Keep in mind, that was in Ken Dorsey's offense, and he's a guy that showed up big in big games for the Bills.
Yeah, and you like that trick. You're looking at a guy who's got one major skill set, but it is highly effective, and it was highly effective in Dorsey's offense. So it's an element you would like to see added to Cleveland. I don't think he's a number 2. I don't see that, but I think he's a good ancillary piece. You don't get worse adding a Gabe Davis, but I don't think he can be the only plan to advance this passing game, especially from your wide receiver room. I think that it needs to be a more in-depth approach. But you can add a Gabe Davis. I just think you need to add something else. I would be happier with someone like Calvin Ridley than Gabe Davis.
What about like an earlier draft pick in Gabe Davis, or do you think you need a veteran presence in addition to?
No, not necessarily. You have Amari Cooper. You have that veteran presence. I think if you was an addition, if you were to use 54 at a wide receiver, you could swing pretty big on a guy who could develop and not have to rely on him right away if you do go get a Gabe Davis. But I think that no matter what the plan is, you need to find a 2 to pair with Amari that has one upside, because we've gotten lucky with wide receiver injuries these last couple of years. And Amari's played banged up a lot, but he still managed to get out there. That luck could run out, and you might need someone who could take over for a game or two while he's on the sideline. So I think that needs to be the approach. I wouldn't rule out both. I wouldn't rule out a upper end free agent as well as a higher draft pick than we're used to seeing the Browns take at that position.
Yeah, they do have to get some weapons for the offense without question. This from Justin M. So wide receiver, Virginia wide receiver, Malik Washington, dominant at the Shrine Bowl. He had 110 receptions, 1,426 yards, and 9 touchdowns. Met with 25 teams and had pretty good meetings. Again, according to Justin M., with the Chiefs, Panthers, Raiders, and Browns. So that is a name to keep an ear out for, Malik Washington. Virginia didn't have a great year, so he wasn't, lighting up a lot of people's, eyes.
Yeah, he's this is a deep wide receiver class, and you're looking at someone who's hovering right around that 20 mark. But intriguing skill set, really good slot player, not big, 5'9", 192 pounds. Doesn't have incredible top end speed, probably runs like mid 4.4s, but that short area quickness is real, and he has really good hands. Now what he'll have to do is show that he can run a diverse route tree, which is something he hasn't been tasked with, whether it was at Northwestern or his time at Virginia. But that's why you have these pro days. It's the reason you have meetings with guys to see what they can understand, what they can take in. But you do need to find someone who can create separation, and Malik Washington fits that bill.
Yeah, we were talking about a guy named Tank Dell who kind of blew up, not quite, he's even a little more undersized, but it was the same short area quickness. And Tank Dell, he's earned himself a nice role in the NFL.
Yeah, and if you look at players that are comparable to what Malik Washington does, at least through college, players that we were talking about last year, like Parker Washington, Wan'Dale Robinson, before he went to the Giants. That's the same kind of mold you're looking at with Malik Washington. So he's definitely a playable NFL caliber receiver. It's just, do you believe you can wait and get someone like Malik Washington, or do you think you have to use one of your day 2 picks? For me, if he's available on day 3, it's a no-brainer.
All right, ideal landing spots for 2024 free agent running backs. This one from the Bleacher Report. DeAndre Swift, teams to watch. Browns, Chargers, and Eagles. Swift turns 25 in January, worth a short-term deal in the range of 2 years, $12 million, with some, but not all of his salary fully guaranteed in 2025, to see if he can build on a breakout season. Had over 1,000 yards, 39 catches, 214 yards, and 6 touchdowns. I think that's a perfect guy to kind of let Nick Chubb get back into the swing of things.
Yeah, he fits the bill of what AB looks for, too. You look at the age. We know the Browns were in on him before when they were looking to get him out of Detroit. The Browns were one of the teams that were in on that, so I think this would make perfect sense. I've never really quite gotten Swift's usage. I know early in his career he got in the doghouse in Detroit, but you saw he's capable of when he's running the football. And I know he's capable of doing more in the pass game than he was tasked with doing in Philadelphia. So yeah, he's someone who would 100% be on my radar. And not that it matters, but he's played with Chubb before. He was on that 2017 Georgia roster. He was the third back when they had the Sony Michel, Nick Chubb, two-headed monster. Well, Swift was that guy, so they're familiar with each other, and I think it would be a positive addition to the running back room.
Casey Kinnamon, Dog Pound Daily Network 216, and I'm going to step aside, take one more time out. Other side of the break, talk a little bit about running back draft prospects. Sports for CLE. Be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program is dedicated to recognizing exceptional students, teachers, and schools throughout Ohio. Scan the QR code on screen to nominate students and teachers as Academic All-Stars and Teachers of the Month. They must be currently enrolled or teach in grades K through 12. Is your K through 12 school developing students' literacy skills to achieve success in reading? If so, you can nominate your school for the School of the Year. Students can win $100, teachers can win $500, and schools can win $2,500. Scan the QR code, fill out the forms, and nominate deserving students, teachers, and schools today. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program takes pride in honoring exceptional students, teachers, and schools across Ohio. Submit your nomination today. It's fun, fast, and free. We continue talking Browns with Casey Kinnamon from Dog Pound Daily and Network 216. Browns' new offensive coordinator, Ken Dorsey, talked about how to maximize skill set of a mobile quarterback like Deshaun Watson.
Every one of these guys is so unique. No one's the same guy, whether it's the mental kind of how they see the game versus how they play the game versus kind of just their personality. So everybody's unique in those types of ways, but some of the things that you can do stays the same. Their ability to get outside the pocket, create, make plays, third down, extend plays, and put a defense in a bind. Again, every one of these guys is very different, but I think there's things you could take away, whether it's the run game, the zone read game, the RPO game, because all those things, a lot of times you can't necessarily teach them. It's a natural feel that these guys have. And watching Deshaun, he clearly has a great feel for a lot of different aspects of football, whether it's scheme-wise for us, instincts of what he sees on the field in terms of the defense and adjusting things. But I think that's the exciting part about working with him is getting back to the elite level that he's of who he is.
And again, Casey, if Ken Dorsey can get Deshaun Watson back to near 2020, Deshaun Watson, he's not going to be here long. He's going to be a head coach.
Yeah, that's quite a way to ramp yourself out if you can get that kind of production out of Deshaun Watson. Get him looking like the quarterback of old. And he was talking about it there. And mobile quarterbacks, they are different. If you look at the mobile quarterbacks he's coached, someone like Cam Newton, I mean, they were literally just doing quarterback sweeps, but if you look how Cam was built, you can see where that would work. Now, someone like Allen's a little closer to Watson. It's a little more instinctual. It's not always called quarterback runs. A lot of times it's the quarterback seeing what he's seeing and just, kind of, but they both play a little reckless when they do that. They need Watson to tone that down because as the injuries he's had this last season was, him taking unnecessary hits. He has to realize when to dive, when to slide down and protect himself. But you can't take that element of his game away because that is what makes him special, to be instinctual and to see things in a split second notice, be able to pull it down and move the chains, So you saw that with Allen. Allen plays a little more YOLO, but he's also a bigger guy. Of those three mobile quarterbacks, Watson is the smallest. So there needs to be an emphasis on letting him be himself with his legs, but at the same time minimizing the risk because the Browns cannot afford to suffer another season-ending injury this year.
Yeah, keep him on the field. Let him be himself, but got to be here for the next game. This is from Sports Illustrated. 4 burning questions for the Browns offense in the offseason. Number one, what or who should call the plays in 2024? Number two, what's the biggest offseason need for the Browns? Number three, could the Browns go into next season without restructuring Deshaun Watson's contract? Who are some players from the Senior Bowl that may interest the Browns? Casey, when you look at that play calling, they've already kind of talked in circles around that. We're not going to know that one for a little bit. What do you think the biggest need is?
It's weapons. It's providing Deshaun Watson with weapons. We've talked about wide receiver, and I think that is a definite need, but they need to add another tight end. They need to add a second tight end who can be more dynamic and split out wide and be that move guy. They already have an elite inline tight end in Njoku. They need to pair another weapon tight end with that. So for me, if you look at someone like Jaheim Bell, in this upcoming draft, someone that you could motion out, get out wide, create mismatches, because they will run a decent amount of 22 personnel with Dorsey if his pass has shown us anything. So for me, that's what it is. It's getting weapons for Deshaun Watson and creating mismatches.
I don't see them not restructuring Deshaun Watson's contract. The reason you would do that is you kind of hedge whether you're going to extend him, and I think they're all in. They're gonna figure out how to get him right, or they will die trying.
Yeah, they've made their bed, so I think that's the only way out. Now, could they do it without restructuring? Yeah, they could. Well, why would you? There's no incentive for that. So there'll be an incentive for both sides to get a deal done, convert that to signing bonus, and push that on down further, and then wash that away with an extension probably after the season.
All right, before I let you go, let's take a look at this. This from Browns Wire. This is 4 prospects that are running backs that the Browns could target in the 2024 draft. Jonathan Brooks is from Texas. There's one. Number 2, Bucky Irving. He's from Oregon. Number 3 is Braylon Allen from Wisconsin. And number 4, Audric Estime from Notre Dame. The last 2 of those, Allen and Estime, are young guys. I mean, they like the guardrails that they have for the age. They're like right down the middle of them for the Browns and Andrew Berry.
Yeah, absolute thumpers too. Braylon Allen's like 245 pounds, 6'2", has really good hands as well. Can provide a couple different elements. But this is an interesting thought exercise because where the Browns sit at 54, there is a world where they could get that pick and have their pick of the litter. Jonathan Brooks is number 1 on a lot of running back boards, but because there's no viewed blue chip running back, those guys are probably going to be available in the second round. So I think they need to do their due diligence on all of them. I like Brooks' ability to be a workhorse type back in the NFL. As sitting behind Bijan Robinson and Roschon Johnson, he was ready for his moment when he got it in Texas. He's someone that I'm pretty high on. But those are all good running backs. That's the Browns sit at an interesting place if they're looking to draft a running back because there's many types of flavors. It just depends on what they're into, and you can get good value on some of these guys just because that position's been so devalued over the years.
And again, you kind of gotta, you hope and you expect Nick Chubb to come back, but you have to plan for worst case scenario that he's not the guy who you expect him to be.
Yeah, and you also have to plan for 2 years from now. Even if he's able to come back and regain what he was for a season or 2 or even 3, you have to have a succession plan. And you have to keep raising the stakes. You can't let guys get comfortable. This is not where this roster's at. You're in your winning window. You bring in competition and may the best man win. That's how you stay competitive. And you can't let these guys just keep their spot because they had it last year. So introduce more talent to the room. May the best man win, and everyone wins for that.
Casey Kinnamon, Dog Pound Daily, Network 2 and 6 as always. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Casey.
Anytime, Dave. Thanks for having me.
Casey Kinnamon, make sure you check him out. Dog Pound Daily, also Network 216. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we turn our attention to the hottest team in the NBA, the Cleveland Cavaliers. Sam Amico from HoopsWire.com up next on Sports4CLE. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Try C, where futures begin.
Sports4CLE continues. We turn our attention to the Cavaliers, who are playing as well as anybody in the NBA last night against the Kings. They won their 14th in the last 15 games, 14-1 in the last 15. Ties for the best record in team history over a 15-game span. Also the best record in a 15-game span without LeBron James. Cavs are also now 32-16, second in the Eastern Conference. Adrian Wojnarowski tweeting that out. ESPN's Brian Windhorst on what he sees from the Cavs.
They are playing tremendous basketball, and they have found something that sounds very basic, but is looking very formidable. One center, one point guard, three shooters. They are essentially playing the bulk of the game this way. And what JB is doing, and it's only been a few games, is he's rotating off Donovan playing with Jared Allen and Garland playing with Evan Mobley. And that with the shooters, and he's got 10 guys he can use, and most of them can shoot, that is wrecking opposing teams.
With that, let's welcome in Sam Amico from hoopswire.com. Sam, yeah, that pretty much sums it up. The addition of a couple of additional shooters has helped as well. Yang and Strus, Merrill, they added some shooters to the mix as well.
And credit to Kobe Altman. That's what he set out to do this past off season, was go out and get guys who can make shots from the wing and keep you honest. Another guy to mention in there is Dean Wade, who he doesn't take a lot of threes. He doesn't force anything, but he's always a threat, and you have to be aware of him. And that's the thing about shooters, is even when they're not knocking down shots, you have to be aware of them if you're an opposing defense, and that creates things and space for guys like Allen and Mobley and Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland, an opportunity to get to the basket. So, even when shooters such as Sam Merrill or Max Strus aren't knocking them down all game, it's likely creating problems for opposing defenses. So that's a big, as Brian Windhorst said, that's been a big thing. The thing I noticed last night when I was at the Kings game, really, Dave, is just the way they're moving the basketball. It's been fantastic, the way they've been sharing the ball. And I haven't seen that in a long, long time. Not that the Cavs had put together a bunch of selfish teams, but right now they're just really moving the basketball offensively, looking for the open man. And it's just been a sight to behold. They've been playing, quote unquote, the right way, and it's paying off.
Yeah, without question. And even guys that are quick off the dribble are passing it early in possessions, and the ball movement's been outstanding. Well, JB Bickerstaff has the problem that every NBA coach would love to have. He's got too many guys for his rotation. Here is Bickerstaff on the rotation.
The job is going to be, how do we figure out, the 10 guys, basically, which isn't always easy, especially when you have so many guys that are like size. So, we'll work at it, and we'll figure it out. And it's going to come sacrifice of everybody, to take a little bit of minutes down so that everybody can contribute in a role. I don't like 10, but they've earned it, yeah. Yeah. 9 is good. Yeah, I like 9, but we got 10 guys that have earned it.
And Sam, that's the right mindset. You earn minutes on good teams, and they'll figure it out. But it's a whole lot better to have 10 guys that have earned minutes than 5 or 6.
Right. Yeah. I mean, some teams only have 3 or 4, that they want to play. And the good news is, you've seen guys that have adjusted to their roles regardless of what their minutes have been. We saw Dean Wade, when Evan Mobley was hurt, playing a lot of minutes and stepping in and doing the needed things defensively and rebounding wise. Well, Mobley comes back, Dean Wade's minutes are, maybe cut in half just about. But when he's in there, he's doing the same things he was doing when he started. Same thing with Sam Merrill, who obviously, really gave them a lift in terms of perimeter shooting. He was a whole new discovery, a guy on the roster that they didn't really know would be able to go in and do what Sam Merrill has done. So now his minutes have decreased now that Darius Garland's healthy, but yet he's coming in and doing the same thing. So, right there, you talk about Karis LeVert, Isaac Okoro. There's 9 guys right there if you include the starters. So they really do go deep. Tristan Thompson, when he gets back, makes it 10. So it's a lot of it for those last 2 or 3 bench guys. It's going to depend on matchups and, whether the team is clicking. But it's always nice to know that you have those players available should you need them, whether it's injury or whether it's a matchup type of thing. Everybody has played extensively now and has a lot of experience, which will only help you come playoff.
Yeah, and the lesser load minutes per game, in theory, should help you at that time as well. All right, so the Cavs have back-to-back road games. Wizards tomorrow night, Nets after that on Thursday. How important are the last few games before the All-Star break, given where the Cavs now sit in the Eastern Conference?
Yeah, you're in a comfortable spot right now. It's percentage points ahead of the Milwaukee Bucks, who are playing at Phoenix tonight. So Milwaukee's got, some games on the road too. Not that that's a huge deal right now, whether you're second, third, or fourth in the Eastern Conference. That's more important, March and April. But it's important for the Cavs to be able to sustain, this feel-good vibe that they have and beating teams that you should beat, like the Wizards and Nets. That helps with that. Now, that's not going to be easy. The Wizards are due to win a game at some point. They're playing at home. And the Nets are coming on the second night of a back-to-back. They're also, a fairly decent team. That game against the Nets will come after the trade deadline, too. So who knows what they might look like. And then you got to go to Toronto on Saturday. So these games look easy on paper, but they're going to be tough. And the important thing for the Cavs is that you try to sustain what you have going in terms of the way you're playing and let the results fall away where they may.
We mentioned Sam Merrill. Interesting. Take a look at this note. Sam Merrill leads the NBA in three-pointers made per 36 minutes. That's Basketball Reference. Only 2 players in the league are making more than 4.5 three-pointers per 36 minutes. Sam Merrill and Steph Curry. So, Sam, when you're mentioned in the same category as Steph Curry with three-pointers, that's good.
Yeah, well, now if you're J.B. Bickerstaff, you just got to figure out a way to play Sam Merrill 36 minutes, right? So I think that says a lot. When he goes in the game and he misses, when Sam Merrill misses a three-pointer, I think it's now a surprise to everybody. His release is just so unbelievably quick. And, percentage-wise and stuff, we've heard him mention in terms of shooting the basketball a few times now on the same breath as Steph Curry. And a lot of people are surprised that Sam Merrill's not going to be in the three-point contest. It sounds like he actually could have gone, but maybe had something else going on. So Donovan Mitchell is going for the Cavs. And, look, Sam Merrill's, the future's very bright. He's having a breakout season. These are the type of seasons you can have that lead to a long, fruitful career. And it's beneficial for both him and the Cavs.
All right, so before we go to break, Nekias Duncan, Steve Jones Jr., former coach for the Nets, talked about what they have seen, what the Cavs have found with Mobley and Darius Garland out. This from the Dunker spot.
Identity is so important for success in this league. If you can find your identity, if you can trust your identity, if you can build on your identity, it will carry you through adversity. Bookmark that bar. No matter what playoff limitations you want to stamp on the Cleveland Cavaliers, it's clear they have an identity, and the way they're playing, it's clear they believe in it. I think there's multiple ways we can go about it, but I think you have to tip the cap to Donovan Mitchell. He's having a career year, folks. 28 a night. Sixth in the league is fantastic in scoring. It's a career high 5.5 rebounds for me. It's a career high 1.9 steals a night for me. It's a career high 6.4 assists for me. That's going to paint the picture of his impact. You know, the month where there was no Darius Garland and no Evan Mobley, for most of it, man averaged 28 and 7.6 assists. We should probably talk about that instead of where's he going to go? Should they trade him? Should they trade Darius Garland? This is a good basketball team.
And Sam, that's a really valid point about Donovan Mitchell. You know, the sixth in the league, and he didn't shoot as much. He was distributing the ball. They put the ball in his hand, and he still found his points and was making players around him better.
Yeah, that's the thing that, you know, he just rattled off there. It's the thing that's impressive, I think, for everybody is the fact that Donovan Mitchell really has been facilitating like no other time in his career right now. And it's not just racking up assist numbers. It's the way he's continuously looked for teammates or making the pass that leads to the, you know, next pass that leads to the basket, the old hockey assist. So I think that he's been doing that. You watch him on defense, he's, you know, been stepping in passing lanes. He's been going out and getting more rebounds than ever before. The scoring's going to be there. He's always going to be a scoring threat. But what really takes him individually to another level is these other things that he's doing other than scoring. And he's been fantastic in those areas. And, you know, not only does that benefit him individually, we've seen how it benefited the Cavs when they didn't have Darius Garland and Evan Mobley. It's really just been Donovan Mitchell's always been an all-star. I think he truly is better than ever this season, just because his game is more complete. And I think the team is better now than they were last year, and he's the main reason why.
Yeah, and he should be an Eastern Conference starter, but, you know, I digress there. He's an all-star. He should be an all-star starter. Sam Amico, hoopswire.com, and I are going to step aside, take a quick timeout. Other side of the break, where do the Cavs sit in the power rankings? We'll also talk a little bit about Isaac Okoro. Sports4CLE talking Cavs with Sam Amico. We'll be right back.
You might have expected all the games, and all the excitement. And even though you couldn't see it right away, it's all right here. 5 games in one. $22 million in prizes between $25 and $500, and a shot at $1 million grand prize. Golden Casino, a night's worth of excitement for just $10.
We continue talking Cavs with Sam Amico from hoopswire.com. Nekias Duncan, Steve Jones Jr., former Nets coach. This from the Dunker spot about the Cavs' style of play and the playoffs.
For me, it's the kind of shots they're generating and the flow that they have that gives me confidence. Now, when it comes to the playoff, do you trust what you've seen?
I trust most of it.
Okay.
And it's funny that you asked that, because one of the questions I wanted to ask you as we brought up, like, what Mobley's been able to do at the 5, more recently what Mobley's been able to do at the 5 as he's come back, how other guys have stepped up, etc. My question to you is going to be, in light of the smaller sample because of injuries, you mentioned 13 games with their ideal starting lineup, do you feel better about the double big setup? And moreover, do you feel better about the double big setup within a playoff context? Because that still feels like the biggest question surrounding Cleveland and where all of the annoying trade talk comes in with the group. But, like, do you feel better about that portion?
Yes, in the sense that they don't have to use it the entire game.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I feel better. Now, I wouldn't go this far, but there's a world where you could say, hey, who's their best closing lineup? And actually have a conversation. Is it Mobley and Allen together, or is it one of them plus pieces?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a positive step for Cleveland. Now, you do want to make sure you can figure out that portion of the program, because your defense is a whole lot better when those two are playing together.
Sam, the flip side of it is it might be matchup dependent. That's the thing. Depth gives you so much flexibility, especially in a playoff series.
Yeah, and those guys hit the nail on the head right there. I mean, when you're talking about that ability to move Allen and Mobley in and out of the lineup, play them at the same time, play them at different times, maybe have one close the game. Allen's really just emerged way more than ever. He's having a better year than ever, even though he wasn't named at the All-Star team or selected as a injury replacement. I think he's better than he was during his All-Star season a couple of years ago. And the fact that those two, Allen and Mobley, are able to anchor the defense. And, there's no question to me, and I know people ask questions on social media or, maybe previously we brought this up, that those two offensively will work together. I think they work just fine together and can even flourish together offensively. Defensively, though, and this is the big reason that the Cavaliers have won 14 or 15 is their defense. I mean, the offense is exciting. It's fun to watch, but their defense is what's going to carry them now and in the playoffs. That's where Mobley and Allen together really come in. So they've got a lot of versatility, not just with those two, but obviously with the depth that we talked about earlier.
All right. This is from CBSSports.com, NBA Power Rankings. So they go Clippers, number 1, Cavs, number 2, Thunder, Nuggets, and Celtics, the top 5. Donovan Mitchell is averaging 33 points, 7 assists, 5 rebounds over the last week. Mobley has averaged 16 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists in the 3 games that he has played. Sam, the other thing about Mobley, and the thing that they were alluding to with playing him together, is the thought is that they are two bigs that don't shoot terribly well. Evan Mobley's starting to shoot the ball a little bit better. There's a little bit more touch on things, and you can see he's been working on his shot.
Yeah, and he does seem more comfortable, not just shooting three-pointers, and he doesn't have to take three-pointers. I know that a lot of people want him to. Look, the Cavs made 23 three-pointers against the Kings, which tied their season high, and Evan Mobley didn't make any of them. And the Cavs still won by 26. So he doesn't need to make three-pointers. What he's doing is stepping out a little bit further from the basket, that 12 to 15-foot range. And if he feels comfortable knocking those down, that will go a long way. And he does. He just looks like it's clearly that he's not only been working on that, but is now to the point where he's had enough repetitions in that range where he feels like, hey, I'm confident taking this shot. I'm not second guessing myself. Maybe he was doing a little bit of that earlier in his career. So, yeah, I mean, and Jared Allen, look, everything outside of 5-6 feet is a mystery, but that's okay as long as Mobley's stepping out and hitting, a couple of those 12 to 15 footers. Because again, you're talking about a team that made 23 3-pointers in a win against a really good Sacramento team. Just picked them apart. Cavs just picked them apart. And I think that what's important is, you utilize those big guys underneath the basket, even if they're both down there at the same time, and spread the court with your shooters. And that's what the Cavs have been doing offensively.
Yeah, and again, as long as Mobley can come out and draw a body away, you open up that for your guys that take it inside. Isaac Okoro's another guy. It just looks like he's taken that. His game has evolved the way you would hope it is. Now he looks a little bit more comfortable shooting from the outside as well.
Yeah, he hit he opened the game against the Kings with a three-pointer from the corner. That's what the Cavs were looking for. And it just nailed it down. Maybe it's his new hairdo. He's changed his hairdo a little bit. It looks great, and his shot looks great. But, you're really talking about a great, very underrated X factor for the Cavaliers. Isaac Okoro's having a career season, and it doesn't always show up on scoring. They don't need him to score a lot. They don't need him to force anything offensively. He's just the ultimate kind of energy utility guy, and really has been a huge benefit. When you were talking about when Mobley and Darius Garland were out, and Cora was starting. Now he's coming off the bench. He and Karis LeVert. It's just been so underrated in everything they do. We always talk about the core four, and we should because they're pretty good. But guys like Okoro, LeVert, Dean Wade, and Strus and George Niang, those guys are all so important to everything that's been going on and have had a huge hand in it. But I've always been iffy on Isaac Okoro until this season. Now I'm super high on him. You got to love what you've seen from him in terms of everything he's been doing to help the winning.
Yeah, it's to the point where if a team wants to ignore him on the offensive end, he is going to hurt them. He is going to make them. That's all you need from him because his defense is really good.
Yeah.
I know you also tweeted out he was a player to monitor ahead of the trade deadline, and I would imagine it's because he's an elite defender in the NBA right now. So he's probably a guy that other teams look at as a guy can play defense, and his game is evolving on the offensive end.
Yeah. First of all, teams love really good wing defenders because the wing position in the NBA is everything today. So that's why, other teams are valuing Isaac Okoro. And the other thing is they love wing defenders who can fit seamlessly next to your star players. And that's Isaac Okoro again. Again, he does not need the basketball to be successful. He doesn't need to dominate the ball. Just make shots here and there, fit in, which he's always done a great job of doing, and being unselfish, great job of doing. And nobody works harder than probably Okoro and LeVert in practice. I mean, those two guys are always, they're pretty intense at all times. So he's just a great guy to have around, and that's frankly why the Cavs aren't going to trade him. They're getting a lot of offers, and a lot of people are calling and asking about him, but I don't see the Cavs, making any moves at all before Thursday's deadline, and certainly not giving up a guy who's their best wing defender, I would say.
Well, having won, as we sit here, 14 of their last 15, it'd be hard to argue with them standing pat with what they have. Sam Amico, hoopswire.com, as always. Thanks so much for the time and the insight. Appreciate it very much, Sam.
All right. Thanks for having me. We'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Sam Amico, make sure you check him out, hoopswire.com. He will have all the latest on the NBA, the trade deadline, and the Cavs. It's going to do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow at 4 on Sports for CLE.